We're going to look at properties of quadrilaterals that are not parallelograms. One type of quadrilateral is a trapezoid. Trapezoids have exactly one pair of parallel sides. And then for this trapezoid, if the top and bottom are the parallel sides, those are the bases, and then these are the legs. These two angles are supplementary, and so are these two angles. And the reason is because we have two parallel lines cut by a transversal, so these are same side interior angles, which are supplementary. One special type of trapezoid is an isosceles trapezoid. So not only does it have a pair of parallel sides, and then these two angles are supplementary and these two angles are supplementary, but also the legs are congruent. Think like an isosceles triangle, you have two sides that are congruent. And then the base angles are congruent, meaning these two angles are congruent and these two angles are congruent. Just like an isosceles triangle, you have your base angles that are congruent. And then finally, diagonals are congruent. Another type of special trapezoid is a right trapezoid. Right trapezoids have two right angles and then still all the properties of regular trapezoids. Another type of quadrilateral is a kite. So if parallelograms have two pairs of parallel sides and trapezoids have one pair of parallel sides, kites don't have any parallel sides. With a kite, you have two different pairs of congruent sides that are next to each other, meaning in this kite, these two are going to be congruent and these two are going to be congruent. They're not all congruent to each other, but two sides next to each other are both going to be congruent. Also, diagonals are going to be perpendicular, and then exactly one pair of opposite angles are congruent. So in this kite, these two are going to be congruent. It's kind of hard to tell on this kite, but if you had one like this is an obtuse angle, this is an acute angle, they're not going to be congruent. So those two would be congruent. Another property, one diagonal bisects the pair of non-congruent angles. So if these are the non-congruent angles, the diagonal bisects those angles, meaning this angle is congruent to this angle, and this angle is congruent to this angle since both of those angles were bisected. And then finally, one diagonal bisects the other diagonal. So you can see here that this side is going to be congruent to this side. It's not going to be this other diagonal that's bisected because this side's a lot longer than this side. So now putting all the quadrilaterals together, all quadrilaterals have four sides and four angles. After that, you have kites, parallelograms, or trapezoids are special types of quadrilaterals. And then sometimes if you have a trapezoid, you could have a right trapezoid or an isosceles trapezoid. And then rhombuses and rectangles are special types of parallelograms. And a square is also a special type of parallelogram as well as a special type of rhombus and rectangle.